on this rainy background Thursday, we have an update straight from the beginning of the season. And the update, of course, is going to be the Delves once more. Definitely the protagonist of this first week. We already made sure to mention to everyone that this week was going to be a rich week for Delves because of the item level rewards that the Delves were going to give you. Right now, for example, players diving into Mythic Zeros on their daily lockout, they drop 593 item level gear, whereas the Delves with your restored coffer key in a bountiful Delve, you can get 603. So already we knew that the Delves were, powerful enough. We also knew that through these first 3 resets, you could get 4 coffer keys from the 4 different weekly events you decided to do. So that was 12 coffer keys. If you had the early access, you had access to 2 more coffer keys, bringing you up to 14 keys. With the amount of shards, the world quests giving you the shards for the keys, you got another couple of keys, bringing you up to 16. There's also been a handful of one-time turn-in quests for these keys, bringing you close to 20, and then on top of the extra coffer keys for your renown levels. Renown 13 or 14, around that range, gave you more coffer keys, giving you at or about 20 possible keys for this week. Now, there have been 2 discoveries centered around the Delves for this week. What we already knew was that you had 4 bountiful Delves available every day, 1 per zone, so you will have 3 non-bountiful Delves and then 1 available bountiful Delve where you can use your key and get your piece of gear. There are, though, regarding Delves, a couple of extra. One is very good, the other is, perhaps not as good. So, the not very good thing is that, unfortunately, despite being added as a new endgame pillar system for your endgame activities, specifically to give something to do, especially for solo players, for example. Now, the unfortunate part is that at the moment, the Delves for solo content are completely overtuned. They are far, far harder than if you were doing them in a group. At the moment, the scaling of the Delves for more characters is significantly weaker than the scaling on a solo character. You would enter a bountiful Delve like today, for example, the Waterworks, where in a solo Delve at tier 7, the boss has 53 million HP for a solo DPS, but in a tier 8, Waterworks, with 5 players, the boss has 124 million HP, which is not even 3 times as much for having 5 players instead of 1 in 1 tier higher of difficulty. That is definitely not an equal type of scaling for boss difficulty. And even on lower amount of players, 2 or even 3 or even 4 players, they are still significantly easier. So even though initially we might have had this cool idea of, we go and do a bunch of Mythic Zeros, a bunch of raiding, but then you can kick back and relax at your own pace, going in there solo. That's kind of not a thing right now. You can still, of course, try to solo the Delves. It's definitely possible, of course. There are multiple specs and classes that have an easier time, especially the ones with better sustain or better tankiness, most of them being a collection of melee DPS or straight up playing a tank, but it is definitely not nearly as effective. Even from a time perspective, doing a tier 8 Delve in a group can take you even as little as 5 to 10 minutes if you're fast, which is nowhere near as fast if you were trying to do this as a solo player. Even worse if you were something like a caster without a pet tank, like no hunter, no warlock, that would have been even slower. So that is the first critique we can give for the Delves at the beginning of the season. Despite what will very likely, after some tuning, become a soloable experience for players, at the moment, definitely the most optimized way to do your daily Delves, your daily bountiful Delves, is with a group and not in solo. Now then there is the extra, which is a positive. It's gonna be a positive even more so when, as mentioned, they make the Delves more soloable, which is the fact that Delves are going to have even more loot than previously thought. Because previously, as we mentioned, the good part about the Delves was the 603 item level loot that you can get now, which is higher than Mythic 0. However, of course, in a few days, this will become quite outdated for many players. Because the moment the actual season releases, the moment you get Mythic Plus, Mythic Raiding, the moment players start crafting their high item level pieces with their sparks, all of those 603 pieces from the tier 8 delves will become quite outdated. Now, what is the positive? The positive is that as players started to go through these bountiful delves finally, since many held off, rightfully, their coffer keys for the beginning of the season to use them in a bountiful delve at tier 8 only, what they discovered was the looting of the Delver's Bounty. What is the Delver's Bounty? The Delver's Bounty is the treasure map that can be looted at the end of the delves. This is not, however, from the big purple chest that you unlock with the coffer key. This is the one that comes from the side chests in a bountiful delve. And this is very good. This is very good because, of course, right now it looks like you have tons of bountiful delves to do because you had 2 resets worth of coffer keys that you could stockpile. But as you use all of these keys right now in these next few days, you will end up at 0. So from that point onwards, the biggest amount of keys you will get every week will be 4 from the weekly quests, and maybe 2 or 3 from some kind of shards acquisition from doing the radiant echoes, giving you shards, etc, etc. But that's still gonna be 7 to 8 every week. And you can do 4 bountiful delves per day, which means in a week you could technically do 28 bountiful delves. But from next week you will only have 7 to 8 keys every week. So this Delver's Bounty dropping from the side chests of a bountiful delve, meaning you can enter a bountiful delve without using your key to try to get this Delver's Bounty from the side chests, is a good addition. Now, what this Delver's Bounty does is exactly what it says. You will find, it will guarantee that you will find a tier 8 hidden trove at the end of the next tier 8 or higher delve you complete. Now, the TLDR is that this will include a 610 hero 1 out of 6 track piece of gear, on top of other things like a guaranteed epic curio for Bran, so a guaranteed 4 out of 4 upgrade spell ability for Bran, some undercoins you can go and then use them to buy your cosmetics from the delves, as well as 3 gilded harbinger quests, so this expansion's version of the aspect quests. Now, it is perhaps because it has been found so recently that the confirmations on how the minute details on this Delver's Bounty are working are still a little bit inconclusive. There have been multiple reports that this can, of course, still drop from non-bountiful delves, but at a lower rate, at a lower chance than if you were doing bountiful delves. And then about the cap. The weekly cap is supposed to be 3, according to some who have run and got 3 maps, but then stopped looting anymore. And other claims that have been looting 4 of them in a single reset, being last reset. But whether it is 3 maps per week or whether it is 4 maps per week, the result is still the same. The opportunity at multiple 610 hero track item level pieces of gear. This was also why you might have heard or seen players trying to min-max the beginning of this season by not bringing up their delves to tier 8 by doing the tier 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 on their main character, because they didn't want to run the risk of looting this Delver's Bounty on a lower level delve, because the Delver's Bounty, this item, is tied to the level of the delve you loot it in. So if you looted this on a tier 4 delve, the guaranteed extra chest with the guaranteed extra item you would be getting from this Delver's Bounty wouldn't be a 610 item level piece of gear, it would be significantly lower. So some players went and used a scuffed alt to level from delve 3 to delve 8 at the beginning of this week. There seems to have been some comments made from players like, for example, you can't actually stockpile these are unique, as you can read by the tooltip, meaning you have to use this. Once you get this, you have to actually use this on your next tier 8 delve, because in that tier 8 delve you might have looted a new one, except you can't loot a new one because you can only keep one at a time in your bags. So the very simple TLDR of this Delver's Bounty is that it is essentially a way, as we mentioned, to give players more incentive to run more delves if they want to, if they like to, even after they run out of their bountiful delves, even after they run out of their 4 bountiful delves every day. Or starting from next week, even as they start to run out of coffer keys very quickly. Because now players have stockpiled 15 of them, have stockpiled 20 of them, so they have got tons of daily delves to run. But come next week, they will enter next week with 0 keys. So they will get 4 from the weeklies, maybe 5 or 6 from the shards, but that's about it. So in just 2 days, you will do 4 bountiful delves on day 1, 2 bountiful delves on day 2, and then you will be empty. You will have no more keys. So technically at that point, you would have no more reason to be running tier 8 or higher delves. But because this newly discovered item exists, now you do have a reason to. At least for any player who will not be getting this high of an item level this early, so hero track item level, 610 plus item level this early, then now the bountiful delves will still remain a meaningful activity for getting good item level gear. And this is not nearly as much of a casual type of reward as the 603 item level gear from delves will be next week. Because next week, sure, you can farm Mythic plus 6, you can farm Mythic plus 7 or 8, or even Mythic plus 9 or 10. But the item level of those keys will be 606, 610 or 613. So these Delver's bounties giving you a 610 piece of gear is right towards the very top of item level rewards from Mythic Plus at the moment. So it would still be a reasonable type of reward. On top of this, it will still be on the hero track, meaning it can be upgraded all the way up to 626. So this new system definitely will have more staying power than the default items being looted from the bountiful delves. So these were the 2 updates for today on the activity of the week being the delves. Number 1, solo delves being a bit too overtuned at the moment and the group delves being far too easy in comparison, and then the addition of the Delver's bounty and the extra power you can get your character every week by continuing to hunt for bountiful delves even after you've gone out of coffer keys, trying to fish for these items to guarantee you higher item level pieces from the delves. So for today, on this Thursday, it is now time to leave each other. Thanks, of course, as usual, for everyone who has watched the video, but also for everyone who is supporting completely for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, of course, the day I have to go out for a few hours and do things, it's just powering rain non-stop.